Welcome to The Bee's Knees, a podcast full of articles, interviews, clinical studies, and advice about knee surgery, physical therapy, and life after knee surgery.
Hi, and welcome to the Bee's Knees podcast. This is your host, PJ Ewing. I've been a little bit quiet over the last 7 to 10 days with our podcast as I've been working on some really interesting tools for everyone who is considering knee surgery or has a knee surgery in the rear view mirror. And these tools I have completed with our editorial team and some of our physical therapy folks, and they're now available for consumption and use. And in this case, today, I'm going to share some details about those resources, those tools, so that you can take advantage of them yourself. The first resource, which is basically a resource which will continue to evolve over time, is a library of information. Tools, videos, podcasts, educational articles, clinical articles, all surrounding various aspects of knee surgery and recovery, from prehab to the final days of your recovery. I'll tell you the headings, and then I'll give you the address of this place that has been created. The various categories or headings that I've created on this page are pre-surgery exercises, pre-surgery education, threats to knee recovery, knee manipulation under anesthesia, post-surgery exercises, knee replacement surgery, bilateral knee replacement, patellar fracture, and knee replacement revision. And all of this can be found at our website, X10 Therapy. And if you just go to search for resources for total knee surgery and recovery, or you just go to the clinical tab, you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. The idea here is that this is a good body of work right now, but will continue to evolve as we add resources that are created anywhere in the world that could be useful, but putting them all in one place. It's basically a library of information that you can go to, knowing that it's been updated recently. The good stuff has been included. Older articles might be deleted, and it's going to be a growing, again, resource for everybody. So feel free to check it out. It's again at x10therapy.com, the home base for a lot of this content that you're going to hear about today. And you'll see the educational resources for knee surgery and recovery. That's the name of the place. It's under the clinical tab at the top of the website. But what I really have to tell you today is that I've created, again, with some experts, some good folks behind me, working with me together on this effort, some tools, some assessment tools. I'm calling them online knee assessment tools, and they cover a whole range of different assessments that you want to do, whether you're approaching surgery or it's way behind you, or you just want to check in on your knees and see how you're doing, or your mobility. I've got some tests and tools for you to go and do online, get some immediate answers, as well as beyond just, hey, how am I doing? What can I do about my condition now that I've learned a little bit more about my quadriceps muscles, my stretching abilities, my strength, my ability to walk, my ability to do stairs, to be in good balance. I now know some new information about me through one of these tests, and what do I do about that? And I've got some answers there with some really smart advice and some video content from various resources that we've uncovered over the course of doing this work. And that's where I've been for the last few weeks. So I'm going to go through these different assessments right now and tell you a little bit about them so that you can decide if you want to avail yourself of this free, wonderful opportunity now and then again in the future as you learn about where you are and where you want to go, and then test yourself again and see how you did. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be productive, and it's also I think very informative to every individual. I guess I like this so much because it's not just theory. It's not just one-way communication. Oh, you should do this, or wouldn't it be great to do that? This is a little bit more personalized in that you're going to get some information about you. You're going to get an assessment to some degree, as much as you can do online, about what that means. And then you're going to get recommendations on, okay, well, if this is you, here are some things that you can be doing right now to fix that problem. Okay, so first let's just go through what the tests are, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail about each one. Firstly, the tests are that have been created, and I think this is really the full list. I don't expect to create many more. You never know. It's a knee BMI test. That's the first one. There's a range of motion assessment. There is the tug test, the timed up and go. And again, I'll explain these in a second. There is a quiz that is called, Should I Consider Knee Replacement Surgery? It's got some evaluative moments and some input and then output. There's a Can you avoid a manipulation under anesthesia with the X10 specifically? There is the 6-minute walking test. There is the stair climbing test, the single leg stance test, the hamstring strength test, and the quadriceps strength test. So those are the core bones of the various tools that we've created. I will also say that in addition to just having individual tools, I've got assessments, so a full, discussion about, okay, it's 6 weeks post-surgery, let's take a set of tests. It's 3 months post-surgery, 6 months post-surgery, here are select tests for you to take and be able to compare yourself and understand where you are at those various points after a patellar fracture, knee replacement surgery, whatever, the ACL work. Those are the big surgeries we have out there, and you can get assessments sort of bundled together. So I'll describe that a little bit as well going forward. But let's go into the individual assessments now. First, let's look at the BMI assessment, the knee BMI assessment, as I'm calling it, because it's not just a BMI calculator, body mass index. How do you fit in the the world of weight and height? And, are you overweight? Are you not? What does that mean? So we do have a calculator placed on the site, which you can find in a million places, but there is one right there. And in addition to that, though, we're adding another tool, a secondary tool, which is, okay, if your good weight, your suggested weight is here, and your current weight is there, and it's a little higher, what is that doing to your knees? What is the collective impact of that weight on a daily basis on your knees? And the full title is Knee BMI Assessment, Tracking Your Weight and Its Impact on Your Knees. Again, that can be found on the website. If you go to that same place under clinical, this is x10therapy.com, of course. Clinical is the tab, and then right below it, it says Educational Resources for Knee Surgery and Recovery. You'll find this test right there on that page. Okay, let's talk about range of motion. Also in that same place, that same address, Knee Range of Motion Assessor. What is your range of motion and what does it mean? This has been created with two primary components. One is the assessor, so you enter in your range of motion, your flexion, bending backwards, and your extension. That's straightening your knee. We also have a little bit of instruction for the goniometer, which is the tool that you might use to get an accurate assessment of your range of motion. And then once you enter that, you get your range of motion on the assessment. We then have a terrific video which explains what does that mean. Okay, so if you've got range of motion here or farther along or worse off, what does that do? What can you do? What is your functional ability if you have a certain range of motion? And that's the second part of this very simple test, entering in range of motion numbers, a little bit about the goniometer tool that you can get for $7 on Amazon. And then what does it mean once you get that range of motion number? Okay, let's move on to the next assessment. All of these located in that same wonderful place. Timed up and go mobility assessment. How does your mobility compare to the norms? Okay, so this is a walking test where you are seated, you stand up, you walk, you turn around, and you go back to your chair and you sit down. and you time it. You can do this on your smartphone. You can have someone else help you. It's very straightforward. There's a great video explanation from Clinometrics on the site. It tells you how to do it in a video form. And then once you do this test, you just get up and walk and turn around and sit down. And there's some parameters there that are explained on the web page. You then determine two things. You enter in your age and your score. Is it under 10 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds, over 20 seconds? And then you get an interpretation with an answer key right there on the page. So you'll get an immediate answer. How do you match up for those that are 60 to 69, 70 to 79 and older, et cetera? And you get some, mean numbers, in seconds as to what the averages are, the mean numbers are, and what did you do in comparison. Pretty simple. It doesn't take long to do. It's a standard evaluative tool that physical therapists, even your orthopedic surgeon would be interested in. It's a measurement of your mobility. It's about 10 feet, 3 meters in distance, the walk that you do. It's pretty straightforward. I've administered a lot of these tests myself, and you really learn a lot about people in their pre-surgery abilities, and then after, in the case of a knee replacement surgery, you can compare how are you doing now? You have a better knee. Are you walking faster? Are you able to ambulate better? This is a prime test for that. Timed up and go, sort of also known as the tug test. So that's the third of our tests to talk about. Okay, we then have something that, for those that have not had surgery, knee replacement surgery, you can use to consider if you should go forward with it. Now, of course, if you're in great pain and you've spoken with an orthopedic surgeon, you have an answer to that question already, and you've scheduled your surgery and off you go. But there is a lot of gray area here, and let's pretend you're 53 years old and you're in pain, but you're not sure if it's really that kind of pain and that kind of, oh dear, do I really need to go through this? This is a very standard, very straightforward assessment. It's about, I think it's 12 questions. And there are questions like, how would you describe the pain that you usually have in your knee? Have you had any trouble washing and drying yourself? Basic functional things. You answer those questions. You tab over, I think, 3 or 4 times, and you get a score. And you then get the answers to that score right there, then and there. What does your score mean? Why, did the score come out the way it did? And then you can then, make decisions based upon yet another piece of information. This is not going to trump your pain or your conversation with your surgeon or a trusted physical therapist, but it's something you can do literally in 3 minutes right now, and you can get a sense of, how do you measure up in terms of the actual tool itself and its assessment. So again, that one is called, Should I Consider a Knee Replacement? It's one of the tools that we've established for you. Okay, next is a tool that we built at X10 Therapy, which is, can you avoid an MUA, but not just so general as that. Can you avoid it using the device, the X10 machine, specifically? It discusses what is an MUA, can you avoid it, what are the odds, and then there's basically an assessment, or we call it a quiz, that you take, and then within, I think, half an hour, 45 minutes, you get an email with your score. Right. So the Avoid the MUA quiz goes through a lot of measures. It's a good 5 minutes to enter this, maybe a little longer. No open-ended questions, just, checking little radio buttons, what's your age, what's your weight, how much swelling in your knee, this kind of stuff. And once you get that done, the results are presented to you on the page, and you also get an email with your results. So this is specific to the X10 equipment itself and the program. Are handicapping our ability to help you, and it really does vary quite a bit. If you are 4 weeks post-surgery, 80 degrees range of motion, a little bit of a struggle, odds are much better than if you are 4 months, 5 months, a year post-surgery, poor range of motion, lots of opportunity for scar tissue to develop, and yet you're trying to avoid a procedure like an MUA. Well, that's certainly a different condition, different situation, and this kind of helps you wade through the decision-making on maybe getting on the phone with X10 and talking to us about what we do and how we could potentially help you. So that's Avoid an MUA with the X10. That's one of the assessment tools. Okay, once again, just so we know where we're going, it is x10therapy.com. That's the website. At the very top, or if you're on a mobile, you'll see the menu. It's called Clinical. And then right below that, there are educational resources for knee surgery and recovery. That's where you find all of this stuff. The next one is the 6-minute walk test. How does your mobility compare to the norms? Guess what it is? You walk for 6 minutes. That's the test. And you measure the distance, or you have someone measure the distance. And I've also done something I think that would be very useful in today's world, which is, okay, here's how you do the test. Here's what that's all about. Here are, what your results are. You enter in your age, and then you can compare your results. But let's talk about maybe how you're going to functionally do the test, which is maybe not on distance and tape measures and that kind of thing, but on steps. So we have a translator which converts how many steps you are taking with your height, let's call it, and what that means in terms of distance, feet walked. So to make it easier, if you're using an Apple Watch and measuring steps, or you're using a Fitbit or some type of pedometer of any kind, that's going to tell you how many steps you took. In this case, we have a little translator that says, okay, I took 800 steps. What does that mean in feet? You enter in the number and you get the assessment number that you need for the test. So we're going to translate steps to actual feet, given just the parameter of your height, because it doesn't matter how tall you are as to how many feet you take when you take a step. So that's also there. And then there's an assessment. There's some also things to be aware of if you're taking a walk. And then there's another second part here, which I think is just helpful for everyone, which is, what is the value of an active lifestyle? We had a terrific piece written a year ago by one of our folks at X10 named John McKay. He's a registered nurse, and he talks about the importance of mobility, just the ability to ambulate, get around, do what you want to do, to your long-term health. Because if there's a cascading effect that he goes into in some detail, which is, if you're not walking, you're not breathing, your lungs are suffering, your heart may be suffering, weight could happen. A lot of things happen if you just can't ambulate. You can't walk like you want to. And it's a terrific article. So there's a link to that article right there as a part 2. So again, this one is called the 6-minute walk test. How does your mobility compare to the norms, as one of our assessment tools? Okay, now we have a simple one, the stair climbing test. How does your mobility compare to the norms? It's a pretty straightforward stopwatch flight of stairs with a railing, and timing yourself and then getting an assessment. 8 seconds or less, 9 to 10 seconds, 11 seconds or more. It's an easy one to do. If you have stairs in your house, you can do it right now. And then there are some norms that we put there for you to compare your numbers to. Straightforward. Again, the stair climbing test. Okay, moving on. The single leg stance test. Very straightforward. You stand on one leg, lift the other leg, and then you measure the amount of time it takes for you to not be able to do that. And, if you can go more than 30 seconds, terrific. 25, 20, fewer seconds, not as good. There's a beautiful video, again, from this terrific group called Clinometrics. They've got some great stuff. And there's a video that explains how to do it. And then there's some instructions for someone who's timing you, or if you're doing it yourself. How do you do this? You select your age. You select the time that you're able to stand on one leg without putting your foot down. And then you see the norms. We also talk about test implications, and in terms of how important it is to be able to balance. The longer the score, the higher the score, the better. So again, the single leg stance test is a terrific video and quick explanation of how to do this one. Okay, I don't want to say that I saved the best for last, but maybe I did. Each of the tools, they're like children, right? They're all so good, so nice, so cute. But I do have 2 great strength tests for you to take at any time, pre, post, whenever you just are curious about your hamstring strength or your quadriceps strength and how that matches other people like you. We've got tests for each of those. Again, quadriceps strength, hamstring strength, each look very much like the other in terms of there is a test. There's a video that explains how to do the test. In this case, you will need a second person to help you. It's really quick, but you do need an evaluator who can evaluate how the feel of your pushing or your pulling is. You're pushing with your quads or you're pulling with your hamstrings. They need to give a reading on that ability that you have. Then we go to the test results and implications. And then what I really, really love is I've got great video content on if you see a weakness, what do you do about it? And I've got from mild to medium to advanced exercises that you can do from two very fun and reputable sources. One of them are, if you have ever been poking around on YouTube and you see the most famous physical therapists on the internet, Bob and Brad, they did a terrific, very instructive video on 10 hamstring strength exercises. And then there's another group called Physio Tutors, and they've got much more advanced work. Not for the faint of heart. This is the tough stuff. The Nordic hamstring curl, the Russian belt exercise. If you're a mad person about hamstrings or the quads, these are the guys you want to watch their video and adopt some of their tools. Of course, you're going to check with your PTs or your doctors or your trusted advisors before you do any of this stuff. But there are lots of opportunities for you to enhance your hamstring strength or your quadricep strength once you determine how it is in comparison to others. So these are great ones. Really love the stuff here that we've done. And that they all complement one another, as you've kind of heard. And if you bundle them all together, like I did with the 6-week, 3-month, 6-month assessments, you can get a really good look at where you stand. So now that we've built the building blocks, these tools themselves, I've collected them in a few different categories, and those are bundled together under different time frame assessments after knee replacement. That's all can be found when last time I'll say it, just so we're on the same page. You go to x10therapy.com, x10therapy.com, find the clinical tab, and then go to educational resources for knee surgery and recovery. That's where you get that library of all the information. And right below the library are all of these tools that I just ran through for you. That's what I've got for you this week. I'm really glad that you spent the time with me. I'll have links to all of this stuff in the episode notes, so you'll be able to quickly find these resources. So even if you didn't write down the website URL and all the nonsense that I was sharing with you, you definitely can just look in the notes if you're using Apple Podcasts. They're great about putting all the notes right inside the podcast app. And you can always email me if this is still confusing, at thebeesnewspodcast@gmail.com. Any moment you can do that. And if you're curious about knee surgery and recovery and the X10 machine itself, of course, you found the right place. And that's always available at x10therapy.com. Email there is info@x10therapy.com. So thanks for listening, and we'll have some more terrific content coming up. Just a little peek around the bend here. I've got some really exciting interviews with some very notable physical therapists, doctors, influencers, people that have created great websites, all coming up soon. It's going to be a really fun month, and the next number of podcasts are going to be really terrific. So looking forward to sharing that with you. And I'll see you next time.
I'm Dr. Justin Trosclair, host of 2-time Podcast Awards nominated A Doctor's Perspective podcast. I interview doctors in and out of my profession about their specialties and the occasional non-doctor special guests. But we also go behind the curtain and see what's working for their marketing, overcoming struggles, practical knowledge, book choices, and relationship advice. Join me on any podcast app on your phone, or visit adoctorsperspective.net for the show notes pages and free resources. I want you to have an abundant home life as well as a thriving practice. So come on, take a listen.
To learn more, visit x10therapy.com, 1-855-910-5633. Just a reminder, it's a huge help if you subscribe to, rate, and review our podcast. It helps people find us.
X10, back to full strength.